Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Book of the week, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep by Mark Manson. Welcome, everybody. It's Jason Barlow, RMT. And as always, I'm here as your health coach and your therapist to help you transform your stress, tension, and pain into health, happiness, and vitality. This week, this book really can help you impact that stress, tension, and pain that you might be enduring and going through, and especially if it's coming from an emotional, psychological side of things, which is what I see a lot of, and it's certainly what I've experienced a lot of over the years, being a husband, being a father of 4 boys, moving country. You know, we all have many things that come up by way of obstacles and challenges, and they're there for a purpose, right? They're there to help us grow and evolve and expand, but sometimes they just feel like they're layering and layering and layering, and it feels overwhelming. And that overwhelm is a psychological overwhelm, which then translates to a physical overwhelm, which is what I see from a therapist point of view on the table, with tight muscles and adhesions and, chronic pain that's not going away. And so there's many layers to that, but getting to the core of today's book, this is a superb book that I highly recommend. It's very funny, very well written. It's humorous. It's a light read, easy read. It's one of those books that you start reading, you just can't put it down. It just continues to expand and evolve, and so many anecdotes and stories in it. And let me just read the back profile for you. But in this generation-defining self-help guide, a superstar blogger shows us that the key to being stronger, happier people is to handle adversity better and stop trying to be positive all the time. Ooh, kind of goes against what Jason's been saying, doesn't it? Come back to that. For the past few years, Mark Manson, via his wildly popular blog, has been working on correcting our delusional expectations for ourselves and for the world. He now brings his hard-fought wisdom to this ground-breaking book. Manson makes the argument that human beings are flawed and limited. As he writes, not everybody can be extraordinary. There are winners and losers in society, and some of it is not fair or your fault. Manson advises us to get to know our limitations and accept them. This, he says, is the real source of empowerment. Once we embrace our fears, faults, and uncertainties, once we stop running from and avoiding and start confronting painful truths, we can begin to find the courage and confidence we desperately seek. In life, we have a limited amount of F's to give, so you must choose your F's wisely. Manson brings a much-needed grab you by the shoulders and look you in the eyes moment of real talk, filled with entertaining stories and profane, ruthless humor. There's a lot of profanity in this book. It's not a children's book. This manifesto is a refreshing slap in the face for all of us so that we can start to lead more contented, grounded lives. So it's interesting that, so in that one synopsis I've read there, that it's not possible. Where was it? Flawed and limited. And yeah, anyway, the flawed and limited. Where did I read that bit? Oh, that's right. And stop trying to be positive all the time. Yeah, the end, so that we can start to lead more contented, grounded lives. So to me, it's almost conflicting opposites there. It's saying that you can't be positive all the time, but you can lead a contented life. So what's going on there? I mean, from a Buddhist point of view, absolutely, it's 100% possible. It's work. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of effort. And this type of book helps you, grind through and push through and have a perspective on that. But I firmly believe with every fiber in my body, and I'm working on it every day, that it's possible. And I have metrics in my own life that are illustrating that it is possible to increase that contentment, to increase that peace of mind, to absolutely transform your mind. It takes time, it takes practice, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of effort. But if you're invested in trying to find real causes of happiness, it's possible. Anyway, this book, I thought I'd read a little section from it briefly. I'm trying to keep this one shorter today, sorry, because I have to get away for a course myself that I'm going to be on very, very shortly. I got 9 minutes, but I'm going to do this in 3 minutes. Okay, Rockstar Problems. This is a section from the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep. In 1983, a talented young guitarist was kicked out of his band in the worst possible way. The band had just been signed to a record deal, and they were about to record their first album. But a couple of days before recording began, the band showed the guitarist the door. No warning, no discussion, no dramatic blowout. They literally woke him up one day by handing him a bus ticket home. As he sat in the bus back to Los Angeles from New York, the guitarist kept asking himself, how did this happen? What did I do wrong? What will I do now? Record contracts didn't exactly fall out of the sky, especially for raucous upstart metal bands. Had he missed his one and only shot? But by the time the bus hit LA, the guitarist had gotten over his self-pity, big one, and had vowed to start a new band. He decided that this new band would be so successful that his old band would forever regret their decision. Talk about a driving force. Talk about a compelling reason to push through this adversity that otherwise he could have gone home, drank a lot, and done some other things, and just had so much self-pity and the victim mentality. He would become so famous that they would be subjected to decades of seeing him on TV, hearing him on the radio, seeing posters of him in the streets and pictures of him in the magazines. They'd be flipping burgers somewhere, loading vans from their Bleep club gigs, fat and drunk with their ugly wives. Man, he doesn't hold back, does he? And he'd be rocking out in front of stadium crowds live on television. He'd bathe in the tears of his betrayers, each tear wiped dry by a crisp, clean $100 bill. And so the guitarist worked as if he was possessed by a musical demon. He spent months recruiting the best musicians he could find, far better musicians than his previous bandmates. He wrote dozens of songs and practiced religiously. His seething anger fueled his ambition. Interesting that. Was it anger? Revenge became his muse. Within a couple of years, his new band had signed a record deal of their own, and a year after that, their first record would go gold. The guitarist's name was Dave Mustaine, and the new band he formed was the legendary heavy metal band Megadeth. Megadeth would go on to sell over 25 million albums and tour the world many times over. Today, Mustaine is considered one of the most brilliant and influential musicians in the history of heavy metal music. Unfortunately, the band he was kicked out of was Metallica, which has sold over 180 million albums worldwide. Metallica is considered by many to be one of the greatest rock bands of all the time. And because of this, in a rare intimate interview in 2003, a tearful Mustaine admitted that he couldn't help but still consider himself a failure. Despite all that he'd accomplished, in his mind, he would always be the guy who got kicked out of Metallica. We're apes. We think we're all sophisticated with our toaster ovens and designer footwear, but we're just a bunch of finely ornamented apes. And because we are apes, we instinctually measure ourselves against others and vie for status. The question is not whether we evaluate ourselves against others. Rather, the question is by what standard do we measure ourselves? Dave Mustaine, whether he realized it or not, chose to measure himself by whether he is more successful and popular than Metallica. The experience of getting thrown out of his former band was so painful for him that he adopted success relative to Metallica as the metric by which to measure himself and his music career. I could go on. It's a brilliant story that he brings together there. But to just give you a little taste of what's in this book. So my book of the week, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep by Manson. Go get a copy, check it out, and leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. If you've already read it and you've got some insight, little tidbits, or hey, I tried this, or this was influential, this is how it changed my life, or what it did for you, leave some comments, leave some insights. That would be more than welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you've dived on live, well done to you. Thank you, and I appreciate your support. If you've not had a chance, you can still get my free digital copy of my book, The 15-Step Playbook for Pain Relief. Just go to my website, jasonbarlowrmt.com. Leave me an email. I'll fire off you an email with the digital book attached. Now, that's only going to be around for this next kind of 4 or 6 weeks. I'm launching a program here pretty soon, and that book is going to be part of that program. So moving forward in a few more weeks, to get my book, you'd have to either get that program or you can get a free chapter from the book to whet your appetite. Thank you for joining me. I will be back on Monday for our motivational quote of the week. I hope you're getting benefit out of these guys, and thank you for joining me. We'll see you and have a great weekend.